At my own son's wedding, after paying for everything from the flowers to the food to the dress, the bride decided I didn't deserve a seat in the reception and placed me near the kitchen, like I was an extra instead of the mother of the groom. I smiled, stayed quiet, watched the celebration through the swinging doors, and pretended it didn't hurt. But when the night was over, I went back to my hotel room, looked at the bills, and realized every detail had been charged to me without respect. So I made 3 phone calls and canceled everything they took for granted. Before we continue with this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video, because when you stop doing this, YouTube understands that you don't like this content and stops recommending good stories like this. Oh, and don't forget to comment below where you're watching us from. We love to know that. I was placed near the kitchen at my own son's wedding, even though I had paid for everything: the flowers, the buffet, the decorations, the music, and even the bride's dress. They sat me in a folding chair, squeezed between trays covered in food scraps and the strong smell of sauce that clung to the air. I could see the party only through the swinging kitchen doors, opening and closing as waiters rushed in and out. No one noticed me. Not the guests, not the staff, not even Daniel, my son. I sat there holding a cold plate of food I hadn't asked for, staring at my shaking hands, trying not to cry. It wasn't exactly sadness, more like embarrassment, like I had been pushed out of a story I helped build. I listened to people cheering, laughing, and making toasts out there in the ballroom, while I was kept back here like I didn't belong. The music played, cameras flashed, and I wasn't in a single picture. I realized that I had paid for someone else's fairy tale, and in return, I got a seat in the shadows, as if I were just another staff member instead of the mother of the groom. From the kitchen, I could hear someone announcing the first dance, and a wave of claps echoed through the room. The waiters paused for a moment to peek, smiling like they were watching a movie. I tried to imagine Daniel and his bride dancing, but the image felt distant, like it wasn't my reality anymore. I remembered the months of planning, the arguments, the rushed decisions, the nights I stayed up calculating costs and trying to make sure everything was perfect. I remembered the day I went with the bride to pick out her dress, how she hugged me when she found the right one, and how I cried because she looked so happy. Now she danced in a dress I paid for, and I wasn't even allowed in the room to see it. I wondered if anyone there knew how much of myself I had put into that day. Probably not. I was the one who made sure the champagne was the brand they wanted, that the flowers matched the theme, that the band knew the song for the entrance. Yet all that work didn't earn me a seat at the table. It earned me a chair next to a stack of dirty dishes that no one had bothered to clear. A waiter passed by and almost hit my knee with a tray. He didn't apologize, didn't even look at me, just pushed through the doors again like I wasn't there. I felt small, like I had shrunk into something useless. I tried to remember the last time Daniel had looked at me the way he used to when he was a child, like I was the safest person in the world. Now I couldn't even get a glance from him. Maybe I had made a mistake in giving too much. Maybe people only value what they struggle for themselves, not what they receive easily. I started thinking about the past years and how often I said yes when I wanted to say no. How many times I hid my exhaustion just to help him. How many birthdays I organized, school events I paid for, trips I prepared, all because I thought that was what a mother was supposed to do: give and give and give. And maybe, without noticing, I taught him that my presence didn't cost anything, that I was simply available, like background scenery. Not someone to thank, not someone to honor. I watched another waiter come in, laughing with someone else, and they leaned against the counter, talking about how beautiful the bride looked. I wanted to say, I know. I was there when she tried her dress on for the first time, but the words stayed in my throat. I didn't want to sound bitter, even though bitterness was exactly what I felt rising up inside me. I looked at my cold food again and pushed it away. I felt too sick to eat. The kitchen smelled like grease and leftovers, and for a moment I wished I had never offered to pay for anything. I wondered what would have happened if I had just said, "Pay for your own wedding." Maybe then they would have treated me like a guest, like a mother, not like part of the staff. I could hear glasses clinking and someone joking on the microphone, saying that Daniel had married the woman of his dreams, and the whole salon erupted in cheers. I wondered if I was part of his dreams anymore, or if I had just been a wallet with a name. Someone finally entered the kitchen looking for me, one of the wedding planners. She smiled like everything was normal and said, "Oh, there you are. We were looking for you earlier. We'll need you for a quick signature on the final invoice." That was it. Not "come take a photo," not "they want you for a moment in the spotlight," not even "they'd like to say thank you." Just a signature, a bill to close. I nodded and stood up, feeling the pain in my knees, and followed her out. As the doors swung open again, the music hit me like a reminder of how far I was from the life happening just a few feet away. I walked behind her, invisible, like I had always been that night. I glanced at the dance floor one last time and saw the crowd dancing, smiling, celebrating a moment I had helped make possible. But nobody turned to see me watching. And right then, in that moment, I finally understood the truth I had been trying to ignore. I had paid for someone else's fairy tale, and the only thing they gave me in return was a seat backstage, like I was part of the scenery, not part of the family. I was still in the hotel after the wedding party when I realized I couldn't sleep at all. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything that had happened. The noises from the ballroom were gone, the guests had left, and the silence felt heavier than the music ever did. I turned on the bedside lamp and reached for the big wedding folder I had brought with me, the one full of receipts, contracts, and emails. I didn't even know why I opened it at first, maybe just to feel like I had some kind of control. But as I started flipping through the pages, I saw numbers that didn't make sense, charges I didn't approve, services I never agreed to. There were little notes written in the bride's handwriting, things like upgrade to premium package, extra decor, signature cocktails added, all things I had paid for without knowing. I felt my stomach twist, but surprisingly, it wasn't the same painful twist I had been feeling all night. This one felt different, sharper, cleaner, like the pain had burned itself out and turned into something new. I sat there in silence, holding those papers, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel weak. I felt awake. I kept reading line after line, seeing how the numbers went up and up in a way that didn't match what I remembered agreeing to. It was clear the bride had taken advantage of the fact that I was the one paying. She probably thought, she won't notice, or she'll just accept it. And maybe she was right, at least before tonight, before being pushed near the kitchen, before being treated like an extra instead of a mother. I remembered how many times I said, "It's okay, whatever makes you happy," thinking I was doing something good. But good hadn't gotten me respect. It had only made me invisible. I felt my jaw clench as I flipped another page with unexplained charges. I realized something important. People only treat you the way you allow them to, and I had allowed too much for too long. I sat up straighter in bed, pulled my phone from the charger, and stared at the screen for a moment. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I wasn't crying. I wasn't confused. For the first time in the entire wedding timeline, I wasn't reacting. I was deciding. I made the first call. It was quick, just a few sentences. I canceled the flower arrangement scheduled for the brunch the next morning. The woman on the phone tried to ask why, tried to explain the no refund policy, but I cut her off and said, "The payment hasn't been processed yet. Cancel it." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't apologize. I just said it and hung up. Then I called the band and told them the second half of the payment wouldn't be necessary because their services would no longer be needed. They were surprised, but didn't argue much. Last, I called the bar vendor and canceled the extra open bar the bride had added without asking me. 3 calls, each under 2 minutes. And with every call, I felt something inside me getting stronger. Not angry, not vengeful, just steady. Like I had been walking around for years with my spine bent and suddenly straightened it. I didn't feel guilty, not even a little. I actually felt calm, like I had cleaned a room that had been dirty for too long. Not long after that, the messages started coming. First from the wedding planner, full of question marks and "please call me ASAP." Then from the bride, long texts full of shock and fake politeness, like she was trying to sound sweet while clearly panicking. And then, finally, Daniel. He didn't ask how I was feeling, didn't ask where I was, didn't even say thank you for everything I had done. His message was just, "Mom, what is going on? They're saying you canceled things. Can you please fix this before tomorrow?" I stared at the screen for a while, reading it again and again. Not because it hurt, but because I saw it clearly for what it was. He still expected me to be the person who fixed everything, the one who paid, the one who stayed quiet, the the one who accepted being forgotten. I put the phone face down and didn't reply. The old version of me would have explained herself. The new one didn't need to. I stood up from the bed and walked to the hotel window. The city looked quiet from up high. I thought about how strange it was that people could be celebrating downstairs while I was up here ending the whole thing with 3 phone calls. It made me realize something I had never thought about before. If they didn't see me when I was giving, then I didn't owe them explanations when I stopped. I wasn't doing this out of revenge. It wasn't about making anyone suffer. It was about taking back space that had always been mine, even if I'd forgotten it. I had always believed that giving made me strong, but now I was learning that saying no could be just as powerful, maybe even more. I sat back down on the bed and let the silence settle again. For once, it didn't feel heavy. It felt like a pause that I chose. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't worry about what they were thinking or how they would react the next day. I didn't wonder if they would be angry with me. I was done carrying that weight. If being generous had made me invisible, then choosing to stop was the first time I felt truly seen by myself. I realized I didn't want revenge. I wanted balance. I wanted respect. And I finally understood that respect doesn't come from paying for everything. It comes from having boundaries. I lay down again, this time closing the wedding folder and pushing it aside instead of clinging to it. I looked at the ceiling one more time, but now it didn't feel like it was pressing down on me. I actually felt tired in a normal way, not in that emotional, drained way. I could feel sleep finally coming, and it didn't feel like escape. It felt like peace. And just before I closed my eyes, one last thought came to me, clear and simple. If I had been invisible when I was paying, then maybe I could be powerful when I stopped. That was the real beginning. The first real boundary I had set in years. And this time, I wasn't going to apologize for it. I came back home still carrying the weight of everything that had happened at the wedding and in the hotel, but I wasn't expecting anything else to shock me. I thought the worst was already behind me. The house felt strangely quiet, the kind of quiet where you can hear your own thoughts too clearly. I put my bag down, kicked off my shoes, and went to the living room. That's when I noticed a small box on the coffee table. I didn't remember leaving it there. It was old, a little dusty, something I hadn't seen in years. I opened it and found letters inside, most of them familiar. Old bills, birthday cards, things from years ago. But one envelope was different. My name was written in my husband's handwriting, the handwriting I hadn't seen since before he died. My hands froze for a moment. I sat down and opened it slowly, thinking maybe it was just something sentimental he forgot to give me. But it wasn't. The letter was short, direct, almost too calm for what it said. He explained that Daniel was not my biological son, that Daniel had been born from another woman, someone he had been involved with before we were married. The child was supposed to be put up for adoption, but he couldn't go through with it, so he brought the baby home and told me he was ours. He wrote that he was afraid I wouldn't accept the truth, afraid I would leave him, afraid I wouldn't love the baby. So he lied, and I believed him. All these years I had assumed pregnancy, birth, motherhood, things I thought I remembered, were just foggy because of stress. But now I knew the real story. I read the letter twice, 3 times. I didn't cry. I just sat there feeling something slowly rearranging inside me. It felt like I was looking at my whole life through a new lens, and nothing looked the same anymore. I leaned back on the couch, staring at the ceiling, letting the truth settle. I didn't feel betrayed in the dramatic way movies show it. I felt empty at first, like someone had unplugged the emotions. Then slowly, something warmer replaced that emptiness. I thought about all the years I spent raising Daniel alone after my husband died. I thought about the little shirts I sewed by hand because we didn't have money to buy new ones. I thought about nights at the hospital when he had high fever and I stayed awake the whole time. I thought about school meetings where I sat alone while other families had both parents. I thought about every birthday cake I baked myself when I couldn't afford a store-bought one. None of that was fake. None of that was based on blood. It was all based on choice. My choice. I wasn't his mother because biology said so. I was his mother because I showed up every single day, no matter how hard it was. And suddenly, that felt bigger than DNA. Then another thought hit me, one that hurt a little more. Maybe that was the reason Daniel never fully saw me. Maybe he always felt something missing, some kind of silent gap he couldn't explain. Maybe he sensed I wasn't really his mother, even though I had done everything a mother does. Maybe that was why gratitude never came. why acknowledgments were always shallow, why he always leaned more toward others for approval than toward me. That realization didn't crush me. It just rearranged the pieces of the puzzle I had been trying to solve for years. It made sense why I always felt like I was giving more than I was receiving back. I had spent my life loving without a guarantee. And still, I loved. I picked up the letter again and read the last line. If you're reading this, it means I never got the courage to tell you myself. I'm sorry. I know this truth is heavy, but I hope someday you'll understand that you were the best thing that ever happened to both of us. I waited for the pain to rise, but instead, I felt something like clarity, a strange kind of relief. I wasn't losing something. I was finally seeing what had really been there the whole time. My motherhood hadn't been a duty tied to a bloodline. It had been an act of generosity, of effort, of heart. I had poured myself into a child who wasn't mine. And even though I had been overlooked and taken for granted, it didn't make my love less real. It actually made it stronger, because it had never been automatic. It had always been a choice. I sat there holding that letter, understanding something I had never said out loud. I had built my whole identity around being the mother who fixes everything, the one who covers mistakes, who sacrifices, who solves problems no one even knows exist. I thought that was love. But now, I saw how much I had erased myself just to hold that role. And if motherhood was a choice, then choosing myself from now on was also an option. I didn't feel like running to Daniel and screaming the truth. I didn't feel like denying anything either. I just felt something inside me standing up, quiet, steady, and new. Maybe this was the moment I stopped being the version of me who begged for acknowledgement, the version who thought love was proven by how much she endured. I wasn't going to fall apart. I wasn't going to chase anyone, not anymore. Not. If my love had been real without blood, then my strength could also exist without permission. That letter didn't break me. It freed me from trying to earn a place I had already paid for 1,000 times over. And just like that, the pain that had followed me for years finally started turning into something else. Not anger, not revenge, but identity. A new one. One that didn't depend on being needed, or useful, or thanked. I wasn't just Daniel's mother. I was someone who had loved deeply, and now finally had the right to love herself back. And in that silence, with the letter still in my hands, the truth didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the first page of a life that was mine again. I walked through the house slowly, almost like I was visiting a place that didn't fully belong to me anymore. After reading that letter, everything looked different. I started noticing how every corner of the house was built around Daniel. Pictures of him at every age, school trophies, birthday decorations I never had the courage to throw away, little things I kept because I thought a good mother was supposed to keep memories. There were almost no signs of me in my own home. No photos of me doing something I enjoyed. No objects bought just because I liked them. No space that felt like it belonged to the woman I was before motherhood became my whole identity. I realized I didn't even know what my favorite food was anymore. I always cooked what he liked, what he preferred. I didn't remember the last time I bought something for myself without guilt. It hit me harder than the truth about the adoption. I had not only lost years of recognition, I had lost pieces of myself. I didn't know what music I listened to when no one else was around. I didn't know what clothes I liked when I wasn't dressing to be practical. I didn't know if I had dreams beyond helping somebody else reach theirs. I decided that night that something had to change. Not in a dramatic, movie-style way, not packing a suitcase and disappearing. It was quieter and deeper than that. I walked into the kitchen and opened the fridge. For the first time in years, I didn't think, would Daniel eat this? I thought, do I want this? It felt strange, almost like borrowing someone else's life. I picked random ingredients, not based on routine, but on curiosity. I cooked a meal just for myself, not caring if it was perfect or balanced or something I could post on social media. While it cooked, I turned on music, not the songs Daniel liked, not wedding playlists, not anything tied to obligation, just music I hadn't heard in a long time. I set the table for one person. A plate, a glass, a napkin. Not in a rushed way, but with respect. I sat down, alone, and instead of feeling pathetic, I felt present. I wasn't eating leftovers from someone else's party. I wasn't swallowing frustration along with food. I was feeding a person I had ignored for years. Me. That simple act did something inside me. It made me want more, not more things, but more truth. So I took out a notebook and started writing a list. Not a shopping list, not bills, not chores, something I hadn't done in a long time. A list of the people I actually wanted in my life, not out of obligation, blood, guilt, or habit. People who saw me, who added something instead of only taking. People who didn't depend on me to exist. People I wanted to share life with, not serve. The list was small, smaller than I expected. But for the first time, it didn't scare me. It felt honest. I made a plan. I would invite them for a dinner. Not a holiday, not a birthday, not a family duty. Just a night because I wanted to host it. Not to prove anything, not to earn love, just to enjoy company that didn't drain me. The next day, I went out and bought flowers. Not the kind chosen for a theme, not matching wedding decorations, not something polite and neutral. I picked the ones I thought were beautiful. I bought food I wanted to cook, dishes I wanted to try. I cleaned the house, but this time not to impress guests or prepare for photos. It was like clearing out old energy, old versions of me. I even moved some furniture, took down some pictures, put up a few things that had been in boxes for years. Little by little, the house started looking less like a museum of motherhood and more like a place a real woman lived in, one who had a life of her own. When the night came, the table looked simple but warm. No excess, no pressure, no fear of judgment. And when the doorbell rang, I didn't feel nervous the way I used to when hosting something that wasn't about me. I didn't rehearse apologies in my head. I didn't wonder if anyone would secretly compare me to someone else. I opened the door and welcomed people I had chosen, not people who expected something from me. We ate. We laughed. No one asked me for money. No one hinted at needing a favor. No one treated me like a background character. I wasn't the mother, the helper, the wallet, the fixer. I was the host of my own life for the first time. I wasn't waiting for gratitude. I wasn't waiting for applause. I wasn't waiting to be seen. I was seen. And not because I paid for anything, but because I existed. That night showed me something I should have learned years ago. Family isn't just blood. Family is who shows up with respect, who doesn't need you to shrink so they can shine, who doesn't disappear when they aren't being served. I finally understood that living doesn't mean constantly giving. That existing doesn't come with a debt. That joy didn't have to come with exhaustion attached to it. And most of all, that I didn't need permission to choose myself. When everyone left and the house was quiet again, it didn't feel like emptiness. It felt like space. Space I had earned back. I blew out the candles, washed the dishes slowly, and felt no rush, no bitterness, no sadness, just a simple, solid truth. I had spent years building a life around someone else. Now, I was finally building one around me. And I went to bed with a calm heart, knowing something not even blood could change. My life was finally mine to live. A week later, Daniel showed up at my door. He didn't call first, didn't ask if it was a good time, just knocked like someone who expected to be let in. When I opened the door, the first thing I noticed was how tired he looked. Dark circles under his eyes, messy hair, the kind of face of someone who had spent more time complaining than reflecting. But even tired, he wasn't there to apologize. He went straight to the point, asking why I had canceled the brunch, why I had ruined the plans, why people were talking, why the wedding planner was upset, why the bride's family was embarrassed. Every question started with, "Why did you?" and not once with, "How are you?" or "What happened to you that night?" He wanted explanations, not understanding. He wanted control back, not clarity. I let him talk without interrupting. And when he finally stopped, waiting for me to fix his discomfort, I walked into the living room and came back holding a stack of papers, the receipts from the wedding, the contracts, every single thing I had paid for. I placed them on the table in front of him and said, "You want answers? Here they are." He saw the total cost. He saw the extra charges the bride added. He saw all the signed payments I made alone. Then I handed him the letter, the one from his father, explaining the truth about his birth. He read it silently, and I didn't rush him. When he finished, he looked up at me like he was expecting a scene, a breakdown, something dramatic. But I was calm. I told him the truth. I wasn't hurt because he wasn't my biological son. I was hurt because he treated me like I didn't matter. I told him I spent years being useful, not valued, present, but invisible, paying, but never respected. I told him the worst part wasn't the wedding. It was the fact that he saw me sitting near the kitchen and didn't even notice I didn't belong there, that he watched his bride shine in a dress I paid for and never wondered why I wasn't beside him, that he let the world believe I was just a background figure when I had built the whole picture. He tried to interrupt, tried to say he was stressed, that it was a mix-up, that he didn't mean to hurt me, but I didn't let him escape with excuses. I opened the box I had prepared, a box full of every receipt, every school fee, every medical bill, every gift, every holiday, every sacrifice I had made alone. I handed it to him and said, "This is the life I gave you, not because I was forced, but because I chose to. But you never chose me back. You only needed me." He froze, holding the box like it weighed more than it actually did. He finally said, "I'm sorry, but it came out weak, almost automatic, like someone handed him the script. Too late, too empty." I told him I wasn't looking for an apology anymore. I told him I wasn't angry. I was done. There's a difference. Anger still expects something. Being done means there's nothing left to take or give. I said I would no longer be the background, the wallet, the emergency plan, or the silent one who absorbs every disrespect to keep peace. I was done teaching grown men lessons they should have learned by watching. If he didn't see me by now, he never would. He tried to say he wanted to fix things, but fixing meant going back, and I wasn't going back. The version of me who shrank to keep love alive was gone. He stood there quiet, and I could see the moment he finally understood. Not the truth of the adoption, not the money, but the real loss. He didn't lose a mother. He lost the person who always filled the gaps, covered the mess, and made sure life stayed smooth. He didn't lose love. He lost access to love he never protected. And I wasn't going to comfort him through that realization. Not this time. He asked, "So what now?" And I told him the truth, the simplest answer of all. Now I live my life, and you live yours. And whatever you learn from this, you learn without me fixing it for you. He nodded, slowly, like the idea was hitting him for the first time. He left with the box in his hands, looking smaller than when he arrived. I didn't watch him from the window. I didn't cry after the door closed. I didn't feel guilty. I just stood there, in a quiet house, knowing that I had finally chosen myself, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. And that was the moment I finally stopped being the mother who tolerated everything and became the woman who accepted nothing less than dignity. With the door closed behind Daniel, I stood there for a moment in the quiet, letting it sink in. There was no urge to run after him, no weight in my chest, no shaky breathing like I used to have every time I thought I had disappointed someone. Instead, I felt something almost unfamiliar, relief. I wasn't alone, even though the house was silent. I had people who truly saw me now, people who didn't measure my worth by what I could pay, fix, or sacrifice. That night, I had a dinner planned, not for family by duty, but for people by choice. When everyone arrived, the house didn't feel heavy like it used to when I was hosting out of obligation. There was music playing low, food I actually enjoyed cooking, flowers I had picked because I liked them, not because they matched a theme. The conversation wasn't polite or forced. There was laughter, stories shared, glasses lifted without tension. At one point, someone raised a toast, not to a birthday, not to a wedding, not to an achievement, just to me, to the woman who finally sits at the head of her own table. I didn't cry, but it hit me, deep and honest. I was finally being celebrated for existing, not for serving. For the first time, I looked around the table and didn't feel like a shadow. I wasn't in the background taking pictures. I wasn't in the kitchen washing dishes while everyone enjoyed the moment. I wasn't the last one seated or the one who got leftovers. I was the host, the center, the one people looked at when they spoke. I wasn't being tolerated. I was being valued. There was no pretending, no faking happiness to keep the peace, no explaining myself. I didn't have to lower my voice or shrink my feelings. I didn't have to worry if someone was secretly annoyed or keeping score. Everything was simple and true. We talked about life, dreams, funny memories, future plans. Nobody asked what I could do for them. Nobody hinted that I owed anything. It was just connection, something I had forgotten I was allowed to have. And when the night ended and the door closed after the last hug goodbye, I didn't feel drained. I felt full, not full of noise or people or work, full of myself, full in a way I had never allowed before. The next morning, I woke up without that familiar heaviness in my chest, the one that used to come from years of being needed but never appreciated. I didn't have anything urgent to fix, no silent punishment hanging over me, no fear of someone calling to say, "We need to talk." I made coffee just for me, poured it into my favorite mug, the one I used to save for guests, as if I didn't deserve nice things. I sat on the balcony, legs tucked under me, watching the morning happen without rushing to meet anyone else's expectations. For years, I had woken up already behind, already trying to make up for something, already preparing to serve. But that morning, nothing was missing. Nothing was demanded. Silence didn't feel like punishment anymore. It felt like space. As I sat there, I understood something very clearly. Belonging doesn't come from blood. It comes from being seen. Love isn't proven by how much you endure. It's proven by whether you're allowed to exist without shrinking. All those years, I gave everything hoping to earn a seat at a table that was never meant for me. And now, I finally had a table of my own. I wasn't waiting for a call, an apology, or an invitation. I didn't need to prove my worth anymore, especially not to people who only recognized my value when they needed something. I was done being grateful for crumbs. I was done being the quiet helper in the kitchen while life happened somewhere else. I wasn't that woman anymore. The woman who sat near the kitchen at her son's wedding, waiting to be noticed. The woman who paid for everything and got nothing in return. The woman who confused sacrifice with love. That version of me was gone. Not dead, just released. I didn't hate her. I just didn't need her anymore. I was finally the main character in my own story, not a supporting role in someone else's. And it didn't feel dramatic or loud. It felt steady, like putting both feet on the ground after years of standing on one. So I finished my coffee, felt the quiet morning air, and let one simple truth settle into my bones. My life starts here, not as someone's mother, not as someone's backup, not as someone's provider, but as myself. No more waiting to be invited, no more begging to be seen, no more shrinking to fit. I was no longer the woman sitting in the kitchen waiting to be called. I was the woman at the head of the table, finally, rightfully, and peacefully. And that was enough. Finally, we've reached the end of this story. I'm extremely happy that you've made it this far. Thank you very much for watching. Comment below what you thought and what was the best or worst part. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.